Aloha and good morning, everyone. Councilmember Okimoto, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Also, Councilmember Okimoto, can you please introduce our guest for the message of aloha?
Mahalo, Chair. Aloha, everyone, and good morning. This morning, I have the privilege and pleasure of introducing to you Elder Vo'i Tai'oli'i, who is the Area 70 for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints here, and the area that he covers is North America West, covering California, Oregon, Alaska, British Columbia, and presiding specifically over Hawaii here. He was born in Western Samoa and has also lived in Utah, but now lives in Kapolei with his wife, Ranette. They are the proud parents of 4 children. And when I asked Elder Taʻali'i, and by the way, his favorite colors are green and red. That's why I wore red today, and he's in green. But his fun facts, I asked for a fun fact about him, and his favorite hobby is to play the drums, and he played in a band in high school. I'm grateful to recognize and introduce Elder Vo'i Tai'oli'i today.
Council members, Honolulu City, Chairman Waters, pleasure to be here. Good morning and aloha. Grateful to be with you, community servants here in Honolulu. As mentioned, my name is Vo'i, also known as Elder Taʻali'i from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We love living here. We've been here since '95. My wife is born and raised in Hawaii, a native Hawaiian, and I've been serving now in this calling for about 4.5 years. As the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we strive to follow our Savior Jesus Christ in our worship, in our services, along with our involvement in the community here in Hawaii. Some of you know about the situation on Maui. It's been a busy morning with Lahaina. I spoke to our stake president there, where the church is involved there, trying to help with many of the people there, loss of homes, as well as our meeting houses there, 2 chapels that we have in Lahaina. So our prayers go out to Lahaina and the island of Maui this morning. I just want to share just a brief message of aloha for us today as you meet in City Council. Aloha to me, first and foremost, means love. As we know in the New Testament in the Bible, it teaches us that we love God with all of our heart, might, mind, and soul. And second, like unto it, that we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And to me, this is a conjunction from the Lord Jesus Christ for us, that we may find harmony in our relationships and our endeavors to strive to become like our Savior Jesus Christ, that we can be motivated by love, because he loved us first. And as we live together in this community and as we serve one another and find ways to show that love for one another, we can always keep that in our hearts and in our minds as a way to motivate us in our service, both to God and especially as we serve others in the community. We have many opportunities from the church and through the church to serve here in the community. We have many organizations that we partner with here in the community, and we've been doing this for many, many years. The last 4.5 years that I've been serving in this calling as an Area 70 in Hawaii, we are continuing to seek for opportunities to partner with charitable organizations, nonprofit organizations here in Honolulu and throughout all of Hawaii, so that we can serve the poor and the needy and others who are in need of assistance. With that, I express my aloha and appreciation, mahalo, to the City Council, the members here of the council that serve in this manner, that we can serve in our community and help those people here that need our assistance and our help. And I leave you my blessing. May God continue to bless you in all that you do, in all your endeavors to serve in our community and do what we need best for the people of Hawaii and Honolulu County. And I leave those thoughts with you in my expression of aloha in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
you. Thank you so much. Members, a few procedural announcements, but before we do that, I'd like to recognize Councilmember Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. I'm just echoing the words of the speaker. Ask that we keep our sister counties, Big Island, but in particularly Maui, on our hearts and minds and in our prayers today. Just ask for comfort for the families that are looking for their loved ones, safety for our first responders, and guidance for Mayor Bisson and Acting Governor Luke. And just know, and I'm sure Mayor and the administration, but the City County of Honolulu is here to support however we can. Mahalo.
Thank you. Procedural announcements. Although remote oral testimony is being permitted, this is a regular meeting and not a remote meeting by interactive conference technology under HRS Section 92-3.7. Therefore, the meeting will continue notwithstanding loss of audiovisual communication with remote testifiers or loss of the public broadcast of the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda, either in person or in the council chamber or remotely. Before testifying, each person shall state their full name and the agenda item they are testifying on. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 3-minute presentation on public hearing and new business items, and a 1-minute presentation on all other items. Registered in-person testifiers will be called first. When your name is called, please proceed to the podium and begin by stating your name and the items you'll be speaking on. When I call for anyone who has not registered to speak in person, please line up to the right of the podium, and when it is your turn, proceed to the podium. Begin by stating your name and the item you're speaking on. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or phone will then be called. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. When I call for anyone else standing by remotely, please utilize the Zoom raise hand button to indicate your desire to speak. For all those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. The following are some friendly reminders and tips. Video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceeding on Olelo, please mute your device at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. For those who are joining us by telephone only, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. Written testimonies, including testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. For your information, Bill 41, relating to wind machines, published in the public hearing notice of Friday, July 28, 2023, is not included in today's agenda and will not be considered. The following item was not posted on the agenda for consideration. On page 25, proposed FD1, Amendment to Resolution 23-182. Copies are available at the City Clerk's office downstairs in room 203. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Here.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Here.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Here.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Present.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Here.
Councilmember Tupola?
Eo.
Councilmember Wire?
Here.
Chair Waters?
Here.
Mr. Chair, 9 members are present.
Thank you. Floor Leader Cordero, any guests today? I think we have quite a bit.
Well, I would like to welcome everyone who's joining us in the council chambers today, including members of our administration, appointees, neighbors, and our community members. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kia Aina, motion to approve the minutes.
I move that the minutes of the 10th and 11th sessions be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members are in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, the minutes have been approved. Moving to the top of page 4, we now move to the order of the day. From the Committee on Planning and the Economy, Councilmember Kia Aina.
I move that CR 193 and Resolution 23-121 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Kia Aina for the explanation.
This resolution confirms the nomination of Catherine A. Tachner to serve as the Director of Land Management of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you very much. Is Kat Tachner here? Aloha. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Council members. Thank you for having me this morning. I just wanted to offer a few comments before the resolution, and that they're of extreme gratitude to Mayor for the appointment, to you for the consideration of this resolution. And I'm joined today by my staff and my family who have been incredible support, so thank you to them as well.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you. Any members of the public wishing to testify on this matter?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Kia Aina, followed by Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you and congratulations, Ms. Tachner, for agreeing to serve in this important role. As I told your predecessor, Kia Aina very often is construed to mean, it means pillar of the land, but very often it's called, people interpret it to mean steward of the land. And so I feel that you are the Kia Aina for the City and County of Honolulu. I've enjoyed working with you, looking forward to increasing affordable housing opportunities on both city as well as non-city lands, and I just wish you well in your continuing role at DLM. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Tupola.
Yes, I'd also like to congratulate Ms. Tachner. Thank you for stepping up and taking this role. You know, it's a lot to be a director of department and take on the responsibility and the headache that comes with it, the lots of meetings and coordination to make it happen. But I specifically wanted to thank you for your concern for the Clean Water Natural Land Funds and really spearheading it with more leadership in the direction of all of our districts. We really did, vote on it last year to extend expand the percentage for a reason. And we don't want to see these funds be wasted. We want them to see them used in our community to preserve some of these cultural sites. So I just appreciate the detail that you've given to that particular program. And of course, all the support that you've given to my office as we have numerous land ownership questions in the city. And you've been such a great asset to us. So I encourage you. I hope that you continue on with the city so that we can build a good relationship and keep working towards betterment of the lands that are within our stewardship in the city. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Dos Santos Town.
Thank you. In strong support of Kat Tachner's nomination to this role, I just really want to commend and thank her for just being really hands-on in a way that's really refreshing. A few weeks ago, Kat convened some of her staff to personally meet with a constituent in Chinatown who had expressed concerns about one of the city-managed facilities. And just taking the time early in the morning to meet with somebody, that was really, really impressive to me. She's also taken me recently on a tour of all the city's affordable housing portfolio in Chinatown. That was really eye-opening for me as well, and I've been able to see the effort that she and her team has put in to renovating those sites, really activating and trying to activate those city-owned spaces to help with the revitalization of Chinatown, which is a huge priority for me. And so I look forward to continuing to work with her. She has put forward a vision for acquiring even more properties and pushing that forward and creating housing and just helping the community in big ways and small ways. So I want to thank her for that and look forward to working with her.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion, members? Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to echo that and mahalo you for being willing to serve, stepping up at really such a critical time, right, with the housing crisis we're experiencing. And, just the wealth of experience that you have, I don't think there's anyone better for the job. And so really thank you for your willingness and mahalo.
Thank you. Councilmember Tolba.
Thank you. Congratulations. I think one of the things that I just wanted to say, and I echo everything everyone is saying, but in all the conversations we've had has always been so optimistic, and I love your energy, and I know the people of Verona are really excited, because one of the things that Kat has really helped us understand some of the challenges, but I know in the next couple of months, the people of Verona will be really happy. And just thank you so much for really investing and helping us understand and really, really bringing that, again, that energy to do amazing things in the county. So thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Cordero,
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam,
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina,
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto,
Aye.
Councilmember Say, Councilmember Talba, Councilmember Tupola,
Aye.
Councilmember Wire,
Aye.
Chair Waters.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 193 and Resolution 23-121 has been adopted. Congratulations. Moving to the bottom of page 4 from the Committee on Budget, Councilmember Cordero.
I move that Committee Report 199 and Resolution 23-148B adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Cordero for the explanation.
So this resolution confirms the appointment of Gwinnett Higa to serve on the Board of Review 1 for real property tax appeals for the City and County of Honolulu.
Hello, Ms. Higa. Thank you for joining us today. Would you like to say a few words? There you go.
Thank you for considering my nomination, and if approved, I look forward to being part of the process. The Appeals Board is important in making sure the process is fair for both our residential property owners and our city budget requirements. So I'm willing to put some time and energy into ensuring that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none? Oh, Councilmember Cordero?
Questions or discussion?
Questions?
Oh.
No questions? Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Okay, now we're in discussion. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I would like to thank the appointee for our discussion last week, and it was great to discuss a little bit about not just appeals, but about a few of our members' different concerns that have come up through the committee. And I know that as you go through this process, there will be more opportunity for discussions, not with just your fellow board members, and as well as the appeals that you are having, but with the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, as well as with us as council members. So if there's anything that needs to be addressed policy-wise as well that you've discussed with BFS, I would love to continue that conversation as you go through your first round of hopefully being on the Board of Review #1 for real property tax appeals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none? Any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 199 and Resolution 23-148 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Moving to the top of page 5 from the Committee on Executive Matters and Legal Affairs, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Chair, I move that Committee Report 204 and Resolution 23-144 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the explanation.
This confirms the appointment of Patrick Smith to serve on the Neighborhood Commission of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you very much. Is Mr. Smith here? Hello, Mr. Smith. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to say a few words?
Aloha, Chair. Aloha, Council members. Thank you.
Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. I want to express my support for Mr. Smith's nomination to this position. This is actually a position that I held for several years as the 9th member of the Neighborhood Commission. I've also seen him as a representative of the Nuuanu community, somebody who's always advocated for that community, has been a really strong voice within my district, and I know that he's going to provide a lot of insight and intellect to the Neighborhood Commission and help to oversee all the neighborhood boards island-wide.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 204 and Resolution 23-144 have been adopted. Congratulations, Mr. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Chair, I move that Committee Report 205 and Resolution 23-159 CD1 as amended be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the explanation.
Chair, this confirms the nomination of Jean C. Albano, PE, to serve as the Chief Engineer of the Department of Facility Maintenance for the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you very much. Aloha, Mr. Albano. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to say a few words?
I certainly do, Chair. Vice Chair and the rest of the council members, thank you so very much for the last 4 weeks in which it's been truly a whirlwind experience in understanding what the Department of Facility Maintenance does for the city of Honolulu. I look forward to working with the council, the administration, and the department to see how we can continue to maintain our critical facilities in Honolulu. I'd like to take this time to thank the mayor, the administration, and more importantly, the leadership of the Department of Facility Maintenance, specifically Deputy Director Mamizuka, Chief Sugihara, for their support and really getting me up to speed in the importance of my role. I'd like to also thank former Director Sevchek for her support, and I hope to do the best I can in this role. Mahalo. I'd like to also thank my family who are here. They are the backbone and the foundation of my existence and my well-being, and without their support, I am not who I am today. Mahalo.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Albano? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. First off, I would like to thank the Director Designate for meeting as much as you could with all of the council members, and not just the council members, but their teams as well, to understand exactly what each district's needs are. That was very valuable, and I know you probably allotted not just more than enough time for me, but for other members as well. I do want to ask, because you said that, you know, just as your family is a backbone, but everything that DFM does is also in support for the rest of the city and county of Honolulu. We wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for your department. You know, I mean, just this whole structure too. And so, with that in mind, and with the amount of, I guess, just vacancies and needed to be filled within the department, what is your first course of action once you hit the ground running? And I know you've already done so.
I have done so. Prior to my first day, I already looked at the organizational chart and recognized that the department was understaffed. So I met with the leadership team to strategize how would we bring additional staff, prioritize the key hires in which we are looking to bring up the current staff, and then backfill as needed. The department does what they have to do. It's a group that basically says if can, and if no can, they still can. So I'm here to lend my support as best as I can to bring up the staff moving forward.
Thank you. And I know that with such wide range of responsibilities for the department, I mean, there's so many things that are currently so backlogged. You heard me talk about, like, not just things that we see all the time, which is our see and hear about, which are streets, our stream maintenance, but even things like our street signs, things that I remember so many people have been asking for before I even was on the council, that has a backlog for that DFM supports. So how do you think we could address all of these backlogs?
Backlog, again, is simple. It's being understaffed. And so as we are able to staff up, I believe we will catch up in the backlog, and it's just a matter of patience and being able to strategize how we bring up staff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you. And thank you for meeting with me as well, Mr. Albano. As you know, I've said that stream maintenance is a high priority for me, as well as I know all of the other members of the City Council. So apart from, with regard to vacancies, I guess for me, I'd like for you to prioritize stream maintenance vacancies because it's not helpful that you're short-staffed. I think it's a matter of public safety for many communities when the water is going to be overflowing and impact property, real property. And then second, I would be very interested when you develop your budget to ensure that any weaknesses that you have with regard to equipment, that you prioritize that as well and put it in your budget. And if not, ask us so that we could help you, because there's no sense in us calling your offices repeatedly and you don't have the resources, manpower or equipment to get the job done. So I just want to make sure that you prioritize stream maintenance.
Thank you, Vice Chair. With regards to equipment, unfortunately, we are still in post-pandemic mode in which the global environment still is struggling with materials. So we are having to prioritize which equipment can be done abroad and procured as soon as possible. We recognize that the stream cleaning and maintenance is important, and I have stressed to the leadership team how we can expedite those critical equipment to be brought to the island.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questioning of the nominee? Seeing none, we do have two registered testifiers. First, Ernie Lau. Is Ernie Lau here?
Mr. Chair, the testifier is not logged on.
Okay. Erwin Kawata. Hello, Mr. Kawata. Thank you for
Good morning.
joining us.
Thank you, Council Chair, Vice Chair, Council members. Erwin Kawata with the Board of Water Supply. The Board of Water Supply supports resolution number 23-159 CD1, confirming the nomination of Gene Albano to serve as the Chief Engineer of the Department of Facility Maintenance of the City and County of Honolulu. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the testifier members? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Clerk, are there any other testifiers on this matter?
Mr. Chair, we have one person by video conference waiting to testify.
Okay, please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the City Council. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. Although I don't know the nominee personally, I'd like to testify in support. I actually don't know what an engineer does, but because it has to do with DFM, and DFM supports the Stormwater Division and the Clean Water Hero, which is a resource for the community, not only for community members, but also for the legislators to participate, to clean up the parks and the blocks and the streets. If there's any way to engineer like a smoother permitting process, if that's what engineers do, or to make sure that the people can get into the streams in the mountains, because there's a lot of homeless people there. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, we're in discussion. Oh yeah, please. Hello, Senator. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chair. Like I said, I don't know him, but I support Uliava on the west side. Been a mess 10 times before you got there. So I'm not blaming you, but we need to have that clean. Ever Beach, the canal by the park, same thing. I sent you guys letters, the Department and Clean Water Act. Right now we're getting mosquitoes, we're getting stink smell. The thing is not being timely. Only thing that you guys do that I give you guys credit for, and I thank your administration for doing this, is the memorial of the Pioneer graveyard. For all our people that fallen a long time ago in the plantation. That is being taken care of very well by you guys every month, and I thank you guys for that. On Puakapuna, I wrote a letter to you guys too. The road was done wrong. Whoever was the engineer, they probably retired by now. They should have got fired. There's no crown on a single road. They put a crown on the road so the water goes into the residents' homes. It's supposed to have been flat. But they're doing a fast job because the person that did the sewer maintenance had run away with the money and bankrupt, and the city did the best they can. But I really need you to look in that because it's very bad. The water is almost ankle deep during rain, and not heavy rain, just light rain. But again, I support you going forward, and I'm looking forward in working with you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. We will certainly look at your concerns and see how we can address it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Seeing none. Councilmember Tupola.
Thanks so much. Chair, in support, Mr. Albano's been wonderful. And to the senator's point, we actually just had a meeting with Congresswoman Jill Takura about Ulehava because it is so severe. I mean, very severe. We have not enough equipment, as mentioned by Councilmember Kiaina, to do the jobs that we need to do. And in a separate meeting, we also had a discussion that DFM is actually doing jobs for other departments that really those departments need to kind of hold their own weight because they're using all of their equipment. So there's some severe things, but the comment I wanted to make is that we have former Director Sevchek here, and we've had quite a bit of director turnover, and unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of handoffs. And I don't mean that they don't call them, maybe they text each other and try to help each other out, but this department is critical for the city. And so I just want to thank her for being here, and I hope that this transition continues to be smooth, because we need no gap. We need you to get in there with no gap and just keep pushing us forward because we're so behind. So thank you for still having a smile on your face. Yeah, a couple months, I want to still see the smile on your face.
Also remember, this
at the
will never go
25th
away.
call
Yeah.
from me. So thank you for being willing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Wire, followed by Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. And just wanted to say mahalo, Director, for your willingness to step up. You know, as Floor Leader mentioned, DFM really is, when we talk about core city services, right there front and center. And so I appreciate your technical background, your experience, and also your innovative perspective and the time you spent going through issues. And so I do have confidence that you'll be able to serve our county well. And I echo Vice Chair's sentiments that I do think just across the board as a city, public safety should kind of be our first priority. And I'm sure everyone agrees with that, right? But we want to just make sure that, stream maintenance in particular under DFM's jurisdiction is happening. So when disaster strikes, our communities are safe. But again, mahalo for your service. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Daryl.
Thank you. I would like to just highlight, but vaguely, because I don't know how much you would like me to share, but I think the discussions relating to the vacancies and how your experience, where you will draw your experience to the city and how we can, I don't want to say surpass, but speed up the issues of vacancy within the department, but working with our Department of Human Resources, hopefully to do so is going to be great. I would like to mention that you have a great deputy director that I know will continue to bring you up to shore, as well as along with the division chiefs that you have. So I really appreciate them, and I know that there's a lot of issues that we are facing, but with your innovation, with the experience also through all the moneyness that we have to go through in the city, hopefully we can come up with something that will help DFM to just be as strong. We need a strong foundation for DFM. And we hope that, and we look forward to working with you on the council to get you that. But we also need to see action for our communities too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you. Councilmember Tolba.
Thank you. Really quick, just wanted to say congratulations and in support. I think in our private meeting, I really look forward to seeing you move on those out-of-the-box ideas that we talked about, and I look forward to continuing what we do in Eva and Waipahu prior to you coming in. So I look forward to working with you. I'm not gonna keep going on. You know the challenges, very important. department. As a son of a former rubbish man, you know, I look forward to seeing how we can really step up our game. And again, the private conversations we had in the office about out-of-box challenges and your ideas. I'm looking forward to seeing how you implement that. So congratulations, and again, in full support.
Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Aye. Councilmember Talba? Aye. Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 205 and Resolution 23-159, CD1 has been adopted. Congratulations, Mr. Abano. Members, moving to the top of page 6 from the Committee on Parks, Enterprise Services, and Culture and the Arts, Councilmember Tolba.
I move that Committee Report 217 and Resolutions 23-153 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Robert Maderos to serve on the Board of Parks and Recreation of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you so much. Hello, Mr. Maderos. Thank you for being here. Would you like to say a few words?
Hello, Mike Kako, Chair Waters, council members. Just honored again to be appointed for this critical role in our community, and if confirmed, I really look forward to working with you to understand the priorities of yourselves and your community, and certainly working alongside and with the parks leadership, who I've grown to know better, and certainly appreciate their passion and their energy in trying to uplift the well-being of our community. So, mahalo.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Maderos? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Okay. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Maderos, and I guess for all of the appointees for the Parks and Recreation Board, I welcome all of you. We need help because I know that the director, the deputy director, and all of the hardworking staff of the Department of Parks and Recreation, their roles are so important in our communities with regard to the use of our communities in all of our beach parks and city parks. So I just ask that you guys do whatever you can to kokoa them because we are doing our best. And the other issue that I mentioned to all of you is that in preparation for the upcoming budget, apart from the general DPR budget, the City Council had allocated funding out of the transit accommodation tax to help mitigate the impacts by tourism on our natural resources, and that's very much in line with the mission of the Department of Parks and Recreation. So I just make sure that the board and the director and her staff work with the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services to make sure that that they get the majority of the allocation of that funding, which is a minimally $8 million. So just look forward to having your background and the background of all of the other nominees to join the board. Thank you so much.
Aye, mahalo.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 217 and Resolution 23-153 has been adopted, and congratulations and thank you, Mr. Maderos. Councilmember Tolba.
I move that Committee Report 218 and Resolution 23-155 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Michael Robinson to serve on the Board of Parks and Recreation of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you. Aloha, Mr. Robinson. Would you like to say a few words?
Good Good morning, Chair and council members. I'm very honored to be considered for this. I want to thank the mayor and the administration for considering me, and I look forward to working with the council on this. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any members of the public who'd like to testify?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 218 and Resolution 23-155 has been adopted. Congratulations, Mr. Robinson, and thank you. Members, moving to the top of page 7, Councilmember Tolba.
Sorry. I move that Committee Report 219 and Resolution 23-156 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Clara Hauser to serve on the Board of Parks and Recreation for the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you so much. Aloha, Ms. Hauser.
Aloha.
Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Committee. I'm excited. This is an incredible opportunity, and I am so looking forward to be able to serve. And mahalo to Director Thielen and the Mayor for having the confidence in me to serve in this role.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. We're in discussion, members. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Chair, just comments. I'm very excited about Carla's nomination. She's very active in the community already, dealing with at-risk youth. And, you know, there's so many youth programs with Parks and Recreation. So I'm just looking forward to your participation and seeing how we could strengthen capacity with our youth and Parks and Recreation.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none, thank you so much. Any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 219 and Resolution 23-156 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you for your service. Councilmember Tolba.
I move that Committee Report 220 and Resolution 23-157 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Catherine Chang to serve on the Board of Parks and Recreation of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you so much. Aloha, Ms. Chang. Thank you for being here today. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, aloha, Chair. Good morning to the council. Like the other nominees, very grateful for the opportunity to serve. I'd also like to shout out members of my nonprofit team in the row over there who came to support. I appreciate them.
Nice. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Noting none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 220 and Resolution 23-159 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you, Mrs. Chang. Members, moving to the top of page 8, Resolution 23-177, confirming the nomination of Dita Holyfield to serve as the Director of Enterprise Services of the City and County of Honolulu. Aloha, welcome. Good to see you. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Councilman. I'm Dita Holyfield. I'm so honored to be the Director of Enterprise Services Designate. I look forward to sharing my 30 years of experience in the entertainment industry, all the way from some of the largest events, over 50,000 people in attendance that I've put together in terms of attendance and promoting, and also have the opportunity just to be so exhilarated to work with the leadership team that is in place at the Director of Enterprise Services currently, from the young to the seasoned. I'm so excited and energized about what can be done, and I hope to bring a modernized view and an open heart for new and great ideas. The last 17 years I've been in the media business, and the last 2 I have an expert degree now in digital advertising, which I think will really play well for customer service. I've met with the ticketing team, I've met with parking teams. Also through my rodeo experience, I have extensive background in animal welfare and care. And I look forward to servicing the live collection at the zoo and the wonderful team that has been assembled at the zoo as well. Thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to meeting with all of you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Councilmember Tulba.
Thank you. Members, I've filed a disclosure of interest statement numbered as communication CC-223 with the city clerk's office after the agenda was posted.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion, members? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Hi, Director Designate. Thank you very much for being here and everything that you mentioned. And I know that you've, from the things that are big and small in our city, but we also have such great projects, including Blaisdell and also modernizing other concession stands or concession vendors. And so what are your goals within the first, I guess, right after being appointed as officially our director?
Thank you, Councilman Cordero, for that question. I am excited to, first of all, just see the projects on the table through first. I want to make sure that everything that we have in motion actually comes to actualization. So that's going to be one of the big things. Also, I'm going deep into all the best practices that are currently in place, all the way from the Blaisdell to the concert hall. As I said, I've met with all the teams from the building supervisors, and I've walked all the venues and the properties. So one of the things I just really look forward to increasing revenue. Council say that was the first thing he asked me to do, is to look for new and creative ways, because we do have some closures that will be sustained and short-term as well. So I'm looking for creative ideas to bring exciting things and to be a strong leader in the customer service piece, where it's not just the people of our state, but also the people that are wanting to do business with us.
Thank you. Councilmember Kiana.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Dita. I'm so excited.
Yes, me too. Thank you, Councilman.
I agree that the department has so much opportunity with regard to generating revenue, and I've been contacted by folks who've been interested, for example, in the increased activity of the Waikiki Shell, for example. I'm pretty sure they're going to be contacting you.
Thank you.
And so I think that's important. And with your background, your business background and your rodeo background, I think it's going to be very, very helpful. Equally important, similar to Parks and Rec, we have a lot of city golf courses that a lot of people utilize, and there has been concern expressed by constituents and golfers about the maintenance of the golf courses. So I just wanted to flag that for you, because of course it's affordable for the everyday person to be able to go out and enjoy, and I just want to make sure that apart from generating revenue, that we don't forget about the maintenance of these resources. I do know that your department has worked already on revamping the concessionaire mechanism so that there'd be more vendors that would be interested. So I'm looking forward to that. And just overall, I think you're the right person for the job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for the nominee members? Seeing none, I do note that we have Kika Bukowski, who's registered to testify. Is Mr. Bukowski here?
Mr. Chair, I don't believe he's logged on.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any other registered or unregistered testifiers?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, in support. I didn't have any questions for the nominee. I also am excited, and I just want to, I was going to say, what is your first goal after you get your email address? Because we definitely need to start communicating with your department constantly. We are hopeful that this department can be self-sustaining, generate enough revenue to take care of all your costs and more, because that's what these venues can do, is bring in the revenue for the city. But also, these venues can become like the face of the city, to be honest. And so the ways that these venues operate need to be ethical, need to be fair. And I'm saying that because everyone has to negotiate a contract to use the Shell, the Blaisdell, and we need people to want to use our facilities. We're in direct competition with the convention center, and there are many people that just won't do business here because of the way that it's being done. So I'm looking forward to you bringing that professionalism into this department, and I'm looking forward to you moving expeditiously through that, as you know, time is money, and everything in the city fast is like 3 years. So maybe for Dita, it'll be like 1.5 or 1, but we're excited to see what you can do, and we want to encourage you and be here to support you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Dita. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to echo what some of my colleagues have said, and I want to thank you for taking the time to visit with us. I want to encourage you to stay positive. I think I want to thank you for when you did come to visit, for bringing just a breath of fresh air and an energy that I think not just this department, but a lot of the departments here and the city could really benefit from. So I look forward to what you can do, bringing your private sector experience into the public sector, and see how we can merge those two, and what you have experienced and the knowledge that you have. I really like to see how you could, like mentioned, generate new types of revenue, but also be able to maintain what we have so far. So thank you for taking on this task. I hope that we can keep you as long as possible, because I think the longer you stay with us, the more growth we can see. Thank you. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none. Resolution 23-177 has been referred to the Committee on Planning and the Economy. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Mahalo. I'm so excited.
All right. Members, turning to the top of page 9 from the Committee on Budget, Councilmember Cordero.
I move that Committee Report 195 and Bill 34 relating to real property taxation pass second reading.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Cordero for the explanation.
This bill relates to real property taxation.
Okay, I note a bunch of people have registered to testify. Is George Paris here?
Chair, are we on 34 or 39?
34.
34, sorry. Pardon me. I do not have any registered testifiers on Bill 30.
Mr. Chair, we have one registered testifier for Bill 34.
Natalie Iwasa, sorry. Ms. Iwasa, are you available? Oh, there she is.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, council members. Natalie Iwasa for the record. I oppose this bill. What this bill does is it increases the exemption from the current $120,000 to $250,000. The $120,000 was just put in place with Bill 40, and this bill also removes the in lieu of exemptions because it increases that exemption as well. It removes a 5-year exemption period. And, you know, you folks have talked about revamping the system, looking at other exemptions. You had that permitted interaction group. You said there was going to be a follow-up. And I thought that was going to happen in July. And here we are in August, and there's been no resolution to follow up on that. It seems to me very disingenuous of you folks to say that you're going to be helping out renters and other people who have had huge, huge increases in their real property taxes. That's why I'm opposing this, because you folks need to be looking at all of these bills, these proposals, none of which, by the way, for the long-term renters is on the agenda. None of the repeals of the exemption is on the agenda or has been moving. And I'm just really thoroughly frustrated because you keep creating an additional divide between the renters or the landlords who provide homes for renters and the homeowner occupants. And when you increase the exemptions, somebody has to pay for that. And it ends up being a big chunk of it, the residential A owners. and they provide housing for us. And I think sometimes you forget that. And I heard during the budget meeting that there was a comment about, oh, we need to find a way to get out-of-state owners. Well, I would just remind you that some out-of-state owners also provide housing for those of us who can't afford a home. So you need to have a system that is equitable for all of us. Get rid of the exemption on the credit unions, the labor unions, the business leagues. They cost us millions of dollars a year. Thank you. That's my testimony. I just ask that you establish that permitted interaction group and have a complete discussion on the real property tax system. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Ms. Iwasa? Councilmember Wire, followed by Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Mahalo, Ms. Iwasa, for testifying today. Just given your background in the financial sector, I was curious, and knowing your involvement in council, do you feel like the exemption, homeowner exemption, has kept up with the rate of increases we've seen in property values?
I heard that question asked in budget. And, you know, if that's the goal, no, it hasn't. But the council has also added that residential A in there, trying to get those awful investors, and that has increased the tax on the homes that are provided for renters. So with respect to that, that's not equitable either. So I understand your intent of trying to increase the exemption because the taxes have gone up, but I would ask you, you know, keep in mind that just because there's a homeowner occupant above age 65 or whatever, doesn't mean that they're low income. And one of the things perhaps that you could look at is that credit. You know, so you have it at now, I think 80,000, 3%. Maybe, and I'm just throwing this out there, maybe you could have a credit that's like 5% for the next bracket of income, so that you catch the people who are kind of stuck kind of in the lower middle class, so that they don't end up losing their homes too, because I certainly don't want that. But anyway, long answer to a short question.
No, I appreciate the answer. Last quick question, Chair Mahalo. I'm just curious. So, given the great conversation we're having, so if, for example, we did, you know, this exemption, and then maybe we did an exemption on the Res A for properties that are actually rented out, and maybe those folks paid the same rate, and then, you know, the property not rented out paid a higher rate, is that something you would support?
Yes, my concern there would be how you would enforce that, or how you would get those particular properties in that classification.
Okay.
Or exemption.
Okay, appreciate that. Mahalo. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero, followed by Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Tsubasa. Thank you very much for your testimony. And of course, about the pig, as you mentioned, you watched the Committee on Budget, and I'm sure you heard many of the times that we did want to allow for some of the bills that are in budget right now to go out for public hearing, which you've provided your recommendations as well, which I've noted. But also in relation to this bill, are you looking, I mean, there's different ways we can do such a pig, and I don't really want to talk about it, but like if we were to stick this bill in or talk about like the process in general, and not move any other bills forward until the next end of the fiscal year before we adopt the budget, is there anything, I guess, would you be willing to provide that information to us? I just realized I'm within the confines of this bill. I can't really talk about anything outside, but before we do step into the next pig, provide that with me and my team as well. Sorry, I'm trying to remain in my confines here of discussion.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you're asking what should be involved
in addition to what you've mentioned here, as well as the 5% for next income and other things that you mentioned, I would just like to be able to have that conversation with you.
Certainly. So what I would suggest is that one of your meetings be open to the public like you did with the prior permitted interaction group, because that lays out exactly all the bills that you're looking at, and it allows the public to provide that input in a cohesive discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kia Aina.
We just have comments and discussion. So no questions.
Okay. Any other questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have anybody else wishing to testify? Hello and welcome.
Konehiki. I came here once before about raising property taxes. You know, if I was sitting there, I would never raise property taxes because, for one thing, the city doesn't own any land, and the property owners better check if they have allodial title. Allodial title is Kamehameha's private property forever. Now, you folks keep raising taxes. You know, you folks not following the rule of law. If you folks follow the rule of law, you folks wouldn't be raising taxes because you can get arrested for neutrality law and stuff like that. Now, if I was standing there, I would tell us host council members, don't vote for any property taxes, period. Even the state of Hawaii doesn't own any property. They gotta prove to us that they have allodial title. Because only one person that did that, and it's in the Mahele law, the 1852 Constitution. You folks better check all that out before you even think of raising property taxes. Aloha.
Thank you. Mr. Councilmember Wire, can you take a minute and explain what this bill does?
Appreciate that. So what this bill would do would be lower the tax payment for property owners that are living in the home that they own. And so right now, I know we just increased the exemption to 120, the standard exemption to 120. This would take that up to 250, and then take the kupuna exemption 65 and older up to 300,000, just to, I think, reflect the dramatic increase we've seen over the past few years in property values.
So to be clear, if this bill passes, it lowers taxes.
Correct.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify? Please.
Thank you, Chair. Never come a long time, so I was kind of slow on the draw when all these other guys coming up, so I wanted to help out. Yeah. So I understand there's a lot of, dismay, I guess, with raising taxes, property taxes, or even having anything to do with taxes. I guess that communities wouldn't be so in disagree or separation if the taxes we pay comes up with the services that is being provided. That's my perspective, well, my dad's perspective, because he's retired, he's 83 years old. He's not a problem in paying taxes. I mean, we have to pay our fair share for positiveness, but not certain things that is happening that a lot of people that wasn't really happy about the pay raise with the city council. My dad, that's something that he wouldn't have paid extra taxes for. Fixing our roads, we pay more for our cars, pay more for our land tax to get more services. That is great. But we pay more and get less, then you're robbing our communities of its service. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, anybody else wishing to testify on Bill 34?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
Is someone from the administration here? Just real quick.
I did see Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Waters, honorable council members, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services.
Quick question. So if somebody's house, average house, $500,000, right, 500,000, what would this bill do and how much taxes would it save roughly, just so that the general public knows?
So let's see, $500,000. Okay, the bill would reduce the valuation by half, right? So it would be reduced to $250,000. So every $100,000, you pay $350. So
$3.50.
$350
$350
for every $100,000 of assessed valuation. So 200,000 would be 700,000, and then 250 would be about half of that, 175, 675, about there.
So how much does it save, like the person who has a home of 500,000? Couple hundred?
Well, it's half, right? So the savings would be that number. So
For
it's-
that house, that it's half of
Yeah,
that
so
house.
it'd be double 670, 2 times 675 at
I see
500,000.
Mr. Takar over there typing away if he wants to answer. I can see him biting at the bit. I just wanted to make it clear because, you know, I do also agree that we need some clarity on the direction we're moving forward so that we can also communicate this clearly to our constituents that ask us every single time, what bill is this and what does it do and what about the other one? Because we just recently discussed the increase of the exemption from 100 to 120,000, right? For 65 and under, and then 140 to 160 for 65 and older, right?
Correct, yep.
So is this tapping that same section of the law?
You're making an amendment to the same section covering the amount of the exemptions. As I always say, you have to make sure that we have a balanced budget as well, right? So I also recall during committee and budget, we discussed going into a second permitted action group to discuss all of the bills together because a lot of these bills will have fiscal impact. And, you know, we may not be in a position come FY25 to pay for all of the, not to pay, but to balance the budget when we have large reductions in real property tax. So we have to look at everything together and come up with an overall plan.
Right, because we're chipping at different portions, right? But this one surprised me because I just saw the mayor cite it into law, and then I saw the bill touch the same exact part and then a little bit higher. So I guess my question would be why we didn't just go for the higher one, or if we are going for the higher one or staying here. What is the department's position on this bill?
Well, I think you have to remember for FY24, so we're in FY24, we adopted the one-time credit.
Right.
So that resulted in a approximate $53 million reduction in real property tax. So with everything else, you know, we had to fund, along with, you know, the increase in the exemption. That's what we could muster, right, for FY24. As we go forward, we're going to have to do the same thing. So if we reduce real property taxes, which is the main source of revenue for City and County of Honolulu, we're going to have to look at the expenditure side and the services related to it and determine what's going to give. Otherwise, we're not going to have a balanced budget, and we cannot submit a budget that's not balanced.
Did you already submit to us a communication saying how much this would result in a deficit?
This bill?
Yeah, this one.
Well, I testified at Committee on Budget. It's just over $70 million.
70 million?
Just this bill by itself. So it'll reduce real property tax revenue by more than $70 million.
Okay, thank you for those answers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councilmember Wire?
Thank you, Chair. Again, as we talked about in committee, when you say 70 million, you're saying that's under the current framework. So the current rates,
yeah. It's based on the current rates that we have in place.
And then at committee, you also said if we adjusted the rates, it'd be revenue neutral. Is that correct? Or it might have been Administrator Takara that said that.
If council, who
adjusted the rates, it'd be revenue.
reviews and approve rates, increases the tax rate for residents, that has a commensurate impact to the tax bill, you could make it neutral, but you would have to increase tax rates.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Because we have the responsibility for balancing the budget. I think
I think we all do.
Yeah, well,
administration and council.
From the community perspective, it's hard to go to them and tell them, you know, we need this much money, right? And so you just have to suck it up. I think from their perspective, our policies and our laws need to reflect the need. and the reality that our community is facing, and then from that, we assess, how do we move forward? Because from just the responses, it seems like BFS is assuming everything else is going to just be status quo.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, we as I said during committee on budget, we have tools that we can use. We have the credit that we can adopt for 1 year. We call it the one-time credit. We used it for this year. We can use it again if we have to.
You're also doing the study.
We're doing the
Contracting out the study.
Yep, for the empty homes tax. And as I've testified in the past, we want to make sure that we have the right structure to administer it right, so we can roll it out in a successful manner if it makes sense. We need the consultant to also cost it out for us to ensure that we can afford the administrative costs, enforcement costs, so that the tax can get moving forward. And we want to make sure that if we are going to collect more revenues, that obviously the revenues from empty homes exceed, the costs of administering the program. So there's a lot of factors that come into play, and that's why we need consultant help to take a look at, how we're structured, what more has to be added. If there's laws that have to be enacted to properly roll out the tax, what are the laws? Take a look at our administrative rules, and so on and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of work to do for that one.
I appreciate the sentiment. So the RFP's been posted, or is it?
The target, as I mentioned, was posted at the end of the month. So
Okay.
we're tracking it right now.
Okay, and so it seems to be on track.
As of right now, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
mahalo, that's great news. Is it going to be out for, is it a 30-day open bid, or do we know yet?
Typically, yeah, that's the target, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, no, mahalo, Director, mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero, followed by Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you. Director Quano, as you know, my preface for all the bills that are going to be following this bill as well is so that we can hold public hearing on these bills, right? Because before, of course, not all members are members of the committee, but not voting members. But even before, like when we operate as a permitted interaction group, even in a public meeting, not all of the council members can actually participate in the permitted interaction group's public meeting itself. So, which is why I really wanted to, I just want to make sure you recall that this is why I wanted the public hearing, yeah? Okay, perfect. And then my next question is in relation to once we adopted the last bill that raised it from 120 and 140,000 exemption, I was wondering, when does that take effect? Does it take effect in September already or next fiscal year?
It's going to take effect next fiscal year, starting July 2024.
Okay, thank you. So if and when, I say if because there's no actual action item, this bill remains not only in committee but goes into an permitted interaction group, this particular bill would not take effect until possibly when? The following fiscal year after that?
So you're talking about changes to, you're talking about this bill we're talking about right
this
now?
bill and any other possible changes that we made to tax structure.
It's really going to depend on the timing. For instance, if we set up the permitted interaction group either too close to October 2nd, that's the application date, right? Or if it's after October 1st, which is the date that we freeze the files to do the assessed valuation. So if it happens after that date, like let's say it's in November, the valuations will probably reflect where we are currently. So yeah, we may not make an effective date July 2024. It could be July 2025. Yeah.
So I don't know about the permitted and any resolution or group yet, but I anticipate because of such a discussion, versus a truncated discussion that we had originally versus such a discussion that we need to have, it'll probably take even half a year to have this discussion, yeah?
It's going to depend. It really depends on how well we organize the group and what kind of decisions we make. It's going to depend on where we are with regard to our budget process. Because as you know, we have large collective bargaining increases that have to be factored in. So all of that's going to be discussed, I presume, in the permitted action group.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kia Aina, followed by Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just wanted to mahalo Councilmember Wire for keeping the discussions on homeowners exemptions on the table, but I will say that I am discomforted by the fact that we're actually having this dialogue because what council member would not want to increase the homeowners exemption? I share the concerns echoed by others that this needs to be after the other two bills passed, bills 37 and 40. I felt that there was an understanding by the members of the permitted interaction group that we would follow up with the second one so that we could look more comprehensively at real property taxes. So by moving real property tax measures independently, I don't feel comfortable with that. It's over $70 million for this bill. And so on the one hand, we talk about the need to improve government services and the need for more resources and equipment and manpower. And on the one hand, we are moving a bill in isolation from revenue generators through real property taxes. And I'm just concerned about that. And so I will be voting reservations again, as I did with the Budget Committee. And I just respectfully ask that we reconsider moving any real property tax bill until we convene a permitted interaction group on real property taxes, and through that mechanism, in concert with public hearings, that we look at all of the various elements of how to address our real property tax structure, and from that, we will have perhaps, we'd have to create new legislation as a result of that. So I wanted a more comprehensive approach in how we move forward on real property taxes. And so I feel that even my expressing a reservation is going to be frowned upon as if I'm not for increasing the homeowners exemption, but to move a measure that costs $70 million without explaining how we're going to generate the revenue simultaneously, I'm concerned about that because it's going to impact government services.
Councilmember Wire.
Yeah, mahalo, Chair, and I do appreciate Vice Chair sentiments, understanding that we do have multiple tax bills moving through council right now. And so I do understand the sentiment of having those multiple tax bills considered in a PIG, and understand, as BFS has discussed, that just small adjustments would make this revenue neutral. In other words, costing $0 to the city. Understanding that BFS is working as fast as they can to provide us the information we need to understand impacts on revenue and where potential sources exist, particularly in looking at how we target out-of-state properties, and understanding that those are all options on the table. I think that ultimately, as I mentioned before, the real purpose of introducing Bill 34 was just to reflect the reality that we're facing. I'm appreciative of the council's leadership in increasing the exemption. I also appreciate the community struggle and the dramatic increases that we saw in property values. I appreciate BFS's willingness to look at where we can more appropriately find revenue, in terms of ensuring that the housing market that we're supporting is specifically meeting the needs of our local residents, which we're losing at 1 per 36 minutes. So just over the course of today, this council meeting, how many is that? And so appreciate all the discussion and just wanted to clarify kind of my intent and purpose, because I do agree, once we get the info from BFS, we'll have a much better understanding of revenue impacts and where we can make adjustments to really meet the needs of our local families and also shift the direction of our housing market so our properties aren't being sucked up by out-of-state investors. Mahalo.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, also, I appreciate the expression of the intent. It's good to hear that. Also have some reservations about us discussing this right after 39 and 41 were signed into law. This is touching the exact same portion of the exemption, which again, we should all be for, but really the whole structure needs to be fixed. I've been a huge advocate of us trying to get the revenue neutral, meaning that from year to year, we don't just keep increasing our collection with the valuation rates, but stabilize our collection so that we can balance our budget while not having them to have to figure out different puzzle pieces and matrices because we have so many different bills that we're trying to touch. And just for reality is that if we, again, were to hold this in the PIG and discuss this with all the others, then we could look at this balance next year with the whole city budget, because it really comes down to, as many of the testifiers had said, city services. So if we have less city services, which is the main concern and complaint that we get from our constituents, then we're still not providing what we're supposed to be doing. I'll just share a quick short story of why it's so important for us to have a balanced city budget and see our needs. Just this past Friday, I had to get community members to go pick up trash at the park in Maili because all of our DPR trucks were broken down. Not one trash truck could come out, and the pile was like a mountain high, and all the campers couldn't even camp in their campsite. So we got community members to load up their trucks, take it up to a piece of land. I had to go and haul it on Saturday morning because we lack the city services and the equipment. So I just would appreciate those discussions, and of course what the director has said about the amount. So once we know the amount, we're gonna have to go and see, just like we do every year with the budget, go and see, okay, where are we gonna get a deficit? Maybe Dita comes in with a 30 million that she can bring in revenue. I don't know, we're gonna have to piece this all together, but we already know that we're lacking on the crucial city services that we give. So I think we need to be moderate and conservative in this path that we take forward, knowing that the few small steps that we could take, we took. We need to take bigger steps, I think, and talk about the whole structure of property tax so that we can, as Ms. Iwasa said, fairly benefit everyone and have a more robust conversation about all of the different proposals. And like Councilmember Kiana said, maybe come up with even a new one that we haven't thought of yet by being able to kind of mull through everything a little bit better. So yeah, I'll also be voting with reservations. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Councilmember Tolba.
Chair, voting with reservations, I hear the same concerns, and I think at the last meeting, I shared my my thoughts on it, and, like Councilmember Tupola said, we have challenges in our community. We see a brush fire that's happening on Maui, and just on West Loch alone, brushes and bushes, trees not being cut and not serviced. It's so easy for us to foresee something like that happening here. So I have a lot of concerns. I think, one, we continue to go government and not really provide the services for the people in our community. So I have concerns on this bill too, so with reservations.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I want to thank the members for allowing the discussion to go back to committee because we do know that it should be worked from in the committee as well. And so I want to thank the members. I know that it's a hard discussion to have in a council meeting, but once any resolution to begin a PIG and the PIG gets adopted, a lot of us won't be able to have the discussion. I might not even be a part of the PIG. So I wouldn't be able to be a part of that conversation afterwards either. So I really thought it was valuable to have the public hearing with the next few bills, with this bill and then the next few bills. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Say, reservations.
No, Mr. Chair, in strong support, because I really love this type of a debate. I think for all 9 of us here at the council, I think the foremost thing that we should consider first is to understand our city budget. All revenues in the operations of the city and county of Honolulu comes from where? Real property tax. Everyone here has supported our public employee unions in the 4-year contract of collective bargaining. I've shared with the members of this council how I feel about fiscal year 24 and 25. And by 25, I think a lot of our members forgot. We're post-COVID. We just got out of COVID. And 2 years ago, we had to balance our budget with federal funds. We didn't want to address increases in valuation or rates. And that's how we took the approach in balancing it. So when the cliff occurs in fiscal year 25, positions that we had that were federally funded, matched halfway with real property taxes, it's going to be a big issue for us again to face. I asked myself, Mr. Kawano, what has been the growth of our county budget year after year? Let's say when you first started 2.5 years ago, what has been the growth in the number of dollars per se, percentage? Is it 3%, 4%?
No, it's more than that because we're coming out of COVID. So I started in 2021. The budgets were all restricted. You know, we were, for that year, I recall we had 10% budget cuts in current expenses. There was a hiring freeze. You know, people were retiring on top of that. So, you know, that actually worsened the vacancy situation, you know, in the city. So the increases have been larger because the base got smaller. And if you schedule out our assessed valuation for real property taxes from 2020, 2021, fiscal 2022, it was flat. It was flat for real property tax. For 23 and this year, 24, we all know the assessed valuations increase a lot because of, you know, as I mentioned earlier, the alignment of the stars one way, right, to increase valuations. Low interest rates, low mortgage rates, pent-up demand to buy homes, low inventory, resulting in, you know, increases. We expect that in FY25, real property taxes should level off somewhat for everyone. And, you know, 25 is going to be a tough year, very tough year. From a budgeting standpoint, it's going to be very challenging.
And I can sympathize, Mr. Chair, with Ms. Iwasa. My recommendation to her in regards to renters, we give these homeowners exemptions, primary homeowners, the exemptions, and it's not passed on to the renters. Maybe they can look at it at the state legislature based on income, on their income taxes, where they could make up a credit for these not homeowners, renters, when they file their income tax. All I'm trying to get at, Mr. Chair, is that it's very difficult for BFS to look at the income of renters and not know what they can do because it's privacy. But more importantly, we're giving a carte blanche increase in exemptions to homeowners that are renting their homes out and passing it on to recoup the increase in the assessment values. Am I correct? So as the assessment goes up, as a homeowner, I'll just pass it on to the renter. And that's what the discussion was this past 2.5 years also. Renters. A great deal of our general population are renters. And how do you try to address it? Not at the city council, at the state legislature. They have the taxing powers. They can give an exemption on the general excise tax if they want to. Income tax if they want to, but nobody has the courage. Nobody has the courage to go across the street and ask these hard questions. The amount of surplus that they had, Mr. Chair, wow, I would ask Senator Favela, why can't you give the County of Honolulu a grant in aid for your particular area or district? A county grant in aid to all 4 counties and highlight what areas they want to help. That's the issue that we have. And I'm very frustrated at this point in my career because we have been mandating, not we, The state has been mandating more and more services upon the city to fulfill that obligation. Where is it going to end? I would love what we did 2 years ago in trying to get the city, not the city, the state to give us our fines and forfeitures on the unadjudicated fines. There was a report, 14 million, that Traffic Violations Bureau could not collect. Give the city the opportunity of doing some collection. I have friends that's so upset at us that, the legislature passed tinted windows. Nobody's enforcing that. It's in the books. Safety checks. Nobody's enforcing that. And that's why the general public today, I feel, is flaunting our laws. There's no enforcement, Mr. Chair, and it starts from home. If my neighbor doesn't have a renewal of his license, safety check license, or safety check sticker, and there's no fine or citation, everybody's going to avoid doing it. Call a spade at this point, because we are at a point where I see that we are in a very tough fiscal situation. I am one who does not believe in increased valuation also. It just hurts the local residents. I am one that the members of this council better wake up. You have the power. You guys want to touch rates? Go touch real property tax rates. That's done by the legislature. That's us, the council. On property, real property tax rates, we address that. We don't address assessments, and you folks all know that. What I'm getting at, yes, we are at a point in time now, hearing the discussion this morning, yeah, we need more and more of this and that. It's all coming out of real property tax. Then we got to give relief. Relief to homeowners, relief to renters. I can't afford it. The people of Oahu cannot afford it. So in the next year, for the members of this council, these 4 counties, along with the State Administration Office of Collective Bargaining, go back to the bargaining table. And I, for one, will always support the pay raises and the OPEB for our city and county employees because of the competition of recruitment and retention. Is that a priority? That's my priority. I haven't said much about what has happened this past year in regards to the budget and what we had adopted. Yeah, I like to give, but if I can't afford it, what can I do? Which comes first, Mr. Chair? County services or relief to our homeowners? I don't have the answer. And that's the dilemma that we all face here today. But for this particular measure, let's have further discussion, but maybe the chair would have to package it all. And in closing, this is what I wanted to share with you, that I wish I had the opportunity as a former budget chair to have a hearing on the repeal of all these real property tax exemptions outside of homeowners exemption. I never did get to first base on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, we've been at it on this bill for about 40 minutes. It's going to go back to committee. At some point, we're going to have another permitted interaction group. But I'd like to stop debate unless anybody has some last minute things they want to say. We're on page 9 of 30 pages. Got a lot of people still waiting to testify on other measures. Real quick, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Well, Chair, I don't know if this is the time for the disclosures, but I did file a disclosure of interest statement, number discommunication CC 226 with the City Clerk's office after the agenda was posted.
Thank you very much.
Chair.
Yes. Councilmember Tupola.
Just real quick, I also filed a disclosure of interest statement with the Office of the City Clerk, Council Communication 224. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Councilmember Okamoto and I did as well, which is reflected on the calendar. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Say.
It's a question that I personally asked you then. Are all council members who are homeowners that qualify these homeowners exemption have to disclose that?
I believe so.
Okay. So staff, you know how to do that?
You will be directly affected if this passes.
Chair, I'll be
Councilmember
filing
Kiana.
a statement of disclosure as well.
Thank you. Okay. Any objections or reservations? Noting the reservations from Councilmember Tupola, Kiaina, Tolba. Any other reservations?
Reservations, Chair.
Councilmember Okimoto. Okay. CR 195 has been adopted and Bill 34 has passed second reading. Now to the bottom of page 9, Councilmember Cordero.
I move that Committee Report 196 be adopted and Bill 39 CD1 as amended past second reading. This relates to real property taxation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you for the explanation. Perhaps we could have a better explanation later. But I note that we have numerous people signed up to testify, starting with T. George Paris, followed by Lisa Marie Akau, Kirk Favela, Natalie Iwasa, Clyde Hayashi, Mel Kahele, and James Manaku. Are you, Mr. Hayashi, you're testifying for T. George Paris. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kiaina, members of the council. On behalf of Managing Director T. George Paris, Hawaii Ironworkers Stabilization Fund, you've all received his testimony, a written testimony. I just wanted to make additional comments in support of Bill 39. This bill is about environmental justice. If for people that don't know, PVT, the property line is right next to where people live. I mean, there's no buffer zone at all. People that living next to PVT have suffered the negative impact of the landfill for nearly 40 years. Over the years, we've heard anecdotal, testimony about the impact, the dust covering their homes. They can't open their window on the side of the landfill. Many, many people have died at a young age from cancer, respiratory ailments. So finally, the CDC, and you have this testimony, please check the U.S. Small Area Life Expectancy Estimates Project. Finally, the CDC came up with this study, determined the life expectancy in every census tract in the country. And what this study showed was that the two census tracts next to PVT, Nanakuli and Lualualei, have the second and third lowest life expectancies in the state of Hawaii. They've lost 10 years less than the state average, right? So this study finally confirmed what residents, people in Nanakuli have felt for a long time, right? They felt that they've seen family members, friends pass away at a young age from different types of cancers, respiratory ailments. So we feel that strongly that this is about environmental justice, that this is the beginnings of compensating people that have lived next to the landfill. And we ask for the council's support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Lisa Marie Akau here?
Mr. Chair, the testifier is not logged on.
Okay, Senator Favela.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, council members. I gave you guys my testimony. I'm not going to read my testimony. I'm just going to speak from what I know and what I live. So we already know what the previous speaker said about the 10 years shortening of our lives. So when my mom fought for environmental justice, environmental racism, just remember that. Remember that in your head. That's what it is. Because the landfills is in the most poorest communities in the state. Power lines, all of that was taken down because of leukemia, respiratory, eczema, you name it. You guys want to know? Go down there and talk to the people. Go to the Abigail Nanakuli clinic. Ask the people that work there, right across PVT. PVT was never supposed to be a landfill that magnitude. It was a recycle for construction material. But they was too lazy and too cheap to continue the recycling of the construction and wood that they were supposed to take to H-Power to burn. certain things they could not recycle, but that dump was not supposed to be 40 feet tall. If you look at that, it's bigger than the mountain behind them. It's a discredit to the community and the people, especially the poorest people in the community. So I just ask you guys to support this bill. It makes sense, not nonsense, because environmental justice and environmental racism is happening on the west side. Look at what we got. Landfills, solar farms, we got them all. Trucking companies, everything, you name them, we got them. But we need some relief for Ohana on that side. So again, thank you guys for letting me testify. Take care, God bless.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we have Natalie Iwaso, followed by Mel Kahele and James Manaku.
Thank you, Chair. Council members, Natalie Wassa for the record. After the prior testimonies, I totally understand the concern. However, I oppose this bill. Again, you're adding exemptions which cost other taxpayers money. And having this discussion without having the complete discussion is not fair to the other taxpayers. It just isn't fair. And so I hear, again, the concern that, well, we want to target those out-of-state taxpayers. We want to, why don't renters get a credit from the state? Well, not every resident files a tax return, for one. And, you know, it's just, again, is frustrating for me to see this coming forth without having a full discussion. This bill also, just to make it clear, when I first read it, I just kind of went through it fast, and I thought it was addressing both landfills, but it only addresses the PVT. And so I would think, although I haven't done research on this, I would think that the other landfill, which has a whole lot of other garbage in it, would also cause the same type of concerns, and yet that's not in here. So just some questions. I hope that you have more of a discussion in the second permitted interaction group. By the way, I just wanted to mention, with respect to the permitted interaction group, a statement was made that you folks, anybody who's not in that group, couldn't participate. And when you have a public hearing, all of you council members are allowed to participate. I'm pretty sure that's part of the Sunshine Law. If there's a public hearing, you're all allowed to participate. So I ask that you look into that, because I think that is an option. The last comment I wanted to make is that the preamble to this bill states that the amount of construction and demolition debris generated in the city has increased over the years, due in part to the impacts of the Honolulu High Capacity Transit Corridor Project, rail. So here we have yet another indirect cost of rail that I'm sure people just don't even think about, but just wanted to raise those concerns. Thank you so much for allowing me to testify.
Thank you. Next, we have Mel Kahele, followed by James Manaku.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the council. Mel Kahele. I lived on the west side. I've been living on the west side for almost 50 years. You know, we talk about fair and being fair. I don't think it's fair that the people on the Leeward Coast have been stuck with landfills for over 80 years. Why is it stuck in the Hawaiian community? Put them elsewhere. Now we're asking for relief for the people that's living around PVT landfill. They've been there 40 years. Again, you know, what's fair? I believe there's relief for the owners of people that's currently living within a mile away from this landfill. I believe it's fair. For the people that always believe that we don't want a landfill in my backyard, try have one. Just see how it feels. Getting trucks, dust, dirt, people living 10 years less than other people that don't have a landfill next to their homes. So with that being said, I strongly support Bill 39. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manaku.
James K. Manaku, senior concerned parent, grandparent, great grandparent. You know, as parents, fair, yeah. I cannot have this kind of hazardous material around our children. That would be fair. Not having them And having a hazardous material around residential, come on, gang. We're, 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 we're parents. I don't care where we live. As parents, we should never, ever have hazardous material. I mean, at home, where do we have the hazardous material? Around our children? Of course not. Around our grandchildren? Of course not. We keep them as far away as we can, and that's what we should be doing in the future. I mean, we made a mistake in the past because we have it right here in our community. Now, you folks, of course, you guys gotta make decisions. So please, in the future, don't make the mistakes of the past. Because you see all of the problems we're having? People are dying. And it's our families. It's not strangers that are dying. It's our families that are dying. It's the decisions that you folks are making, not me. Because I am making decisions that are keeping my family alive. So please help us. Stop all of this. Wow, it's bad, gang. We cannot have our future generations being exposed to all of this. You guys sitting behind the chairs, like I said before, you know when they write history books, you guys gonna be inside that books. It's your names that's gonna be in that books. My name's gonna be in that book too because I stay here behind the mic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, are there any other people wishing to testify? Aloha. Please proceed.
Konohiki. Let me get this thing straight again. There is no annexation in Hawaii to the United States. The Department of Justice stated no annexation. Williamson Chang, University of Manoa, stated the United States have no jurisdiction in Hawaii. That means we're not the 50th state. Now, Alfred M. DeZayas, he's with the United Nations people. You know what he stated? It's a fraudulent annexation. So you people better pay attention to the rule of law. And since that time, how many rules that the city made from the 1900 to the present, and also the state of Hawaii legislature from 59 to now, it's all bogus. You folks are wrong. You folks better follow the rule of law. And furthermore, this whole thing is all bogus. Mahalo.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify on Bill 39, CD1? Please proceed.
Hello, my name is Konohiki Kelvin Hulehe. I'm a Kamoali'i descendant. And here my proof, Konohiki. I follow the Constitution of Kamehameha III. And I try to do my history of the overthrow of the Queen. And when I submit all what I learned, well, I mean, copy from somebody. And I might give them all to you guys so you guys can learn our history, what happened. These are the steps, I think so. Maybe some steps when hop, skip, and jump, but should be all right. And I went submit, this one real good. He was a trustee, Mitsuo Takabuki. I'm going to give you guys one copy so you guys can get educated and learn our history. And 2017, for this, like I said, yeah, I gotta give you guys this one. You guys gotta learn this one, okay? That's a step, okay? But anyway, the landfill, the 39 bill, what you do to me is to try stop what coming in because it's gonna take a long time where you're gonna put a pala. So in the meantime, tell the CDC or whoever, what not pono for the island, because this konohiki here, I don't like this kind of material coming in and damaging our water, the land, the air. I'm telling you guys as a konohiki, the rightful speaker, where you guys representing us and you guys supposed to jump on the hukulea, but you guys stay on the lurleen. The American flag. We brought our flag back to the Washington Palace. We're supposed to be flying them. When somebody give you the colors, you fly your underwear. You don't just wear them, you fly them. And what you guys flying is you guys' own underwear. Fly the right color. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, is there anybody else who'd like to testify on Bill 39 CD1? Aloha, please proceed.
Hi, I'm Jolie Tokusato with Unite Here Local 5. We represent hotel, healthcare, and food service workers, and including members who live in Nanakuli. And we support this bill, and we thank you for introducing the bill. Just for people who wouldn't support this, you just ask yourself if you would be willing to have PVT landfill in your backyard. We think this is a start. It's not enough. We should do more, but thank you for introducing this bill. Thank you. We support it.
Thank you very much. Anybody else, Mr. Clerk, would like to testify? Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the City Council. Angela Melody Young testifying in support. So in Hawaii, space is always a concern, and by recycling, we keep waste out of the landfill. This past year, 214,000 tons of waste went to Oahu's Waimanalo Gulch Sanitary Landfill, a municipal solid waste landfill in Kapolei. And according to the State Land Use Commission, because the city manages the municipal waste, it will have to identify alternative landfills by the end of 2022. Because the Waimanalo Gulch is set to close by 2028. Yet in 2017, a report deemed that the potential locations were not viable because the landfills can't be next to a conservation zone, school, residential zone, or hospital. And so now the city is looking for new locations. And H Power, which stands for Honolulu Program of Waste Energy Recovery, was built in 1990, and the waste-to-energy plant processes over 700,000 tons of waste per year. So that's all of the traditional ways of waste diversion. There are also non-traditional waste diversion solutions. From the discussions, activity, and initiatives from Sustainable Coastlines, Hawaii Youth Climate Coalition, Four Oceans, Surfrider, the sustainability organizations in the community. And some of them, especially Surfrider, testifies for public policy relating to recycling and environment. And there are going to be brand new ways to recycle and create sustainable solutions. So as we see collaborations to create this cultural shift in the way recycling and waste is managed, there probably may not be more landfills in the future. So before people get too worried, I think there are already thriving collaborations in the community working to provide solutions. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, we're in discussion.
Chair, would I be able to ask a question to one of the testifiers?
Oh, absolutely. Please proceed.
I would just like to ask Ms. Iwasa if she could come to the podium. Thank you, Ms. Iwasa, and I appreciate you coming to testify. And I recognize that your opposition to this was based on the fiscal part. You're against all exemptions. But I guess my question to you, after hearing the testimonies of the others from the community on the leeward side who are faced with having the landfills in their community, in their area, is what would be your take if my memory is correct, there have been opportunities for the east side, for your community, Hawaii Kai, to have landfills, and the community has been in opposition to that. So would your testimony be the same if this landfill or these landfills were in your community? And that's my first question. The second question is, would you have a suggestion of where else we could put landfills? Again, Hawaii Kai has rejected it. As far as today, there's still not even a report of it being on the 2022 report on the list. It's not on the list in the June 2022 report given to the mayor for another part of the island, specifically your side, to be even a part of an option for a landfill, another landfill.
So I've been pretty consistent with respect to real property taxes. And so the first question was whether I would be opposed to this if the landfill were in Hawaii Kai. And my answer to that is yes, because I think that, you know, we have all these exemptions out there and nobody wants to touch some of these. It's like they're just sacred cows and we keep adding to them, and we can't keep doing that. From a fiscal perspective, we just can't keep doing that. So yes, I would oppose it even if it were in my backyard. And I'm sorry, what is your second question?
Well, my second question is if you had a suggestion of where else we could put the landfill, because I do hear and understand the sentiment of the residents on the labor side who've been impacted by the landfills in the area, and this would be something that would benefit them. So could you have a suggestion for us of where else we could put the next landfill that we direly need at this time?
Well, as you probably know, there have been many people over the years discussing that very issue. And some of the problems, as I understand it, are the water tables, the closeness of schools, various other issues that impact where a landfill can be placed. And so what I would do if I had more power or decision authority, I would set priorities for our waste. I mean, look at what we throw away. It's crazy. And so we have now, later in the agenda, you're going to be talking about a resolution supporting a pilot project in Kapa'akori. I totally support that, because for anybody who's not aware of that, it would set up a pilot project to reuse the construction material. I mean, that absolutely makes sense to me. And yet we have people who are saying, oh, you know, when you do that, be careful, we don't want to jeopardize people's jobs. Well, hello, if people aren't living because they have a landfill in their neighborhood, what does it matter if they have a job? I mean, some of this stuff you just kind of have to take a broad view and use a little common sense, as well as trying to be fair and be aware of these impacts, both physically on the people and financially on everyone.
And I really do appreciate you being mindful of the finances of the city, because that's something that is important to me as well. And thank you for answering. I think I'm not from the community where this has been impacting, but I think from those residents who are, it would be nice to I think the support they're looking for is to not feel that they're always going to be the dumping ground for everything. And if other people in our county would be more willing to, and I'm not saying it should be you or anyone, but we should come up with more solutions so that the Leeward Coast doesn't always feel that they're just always going to be the last straw. But I thank you for being mindful. And I think on the east side, where you are a resident of, correct, it would be nice if we didn't always feel that every NIMBY is in that area, because I think the rest of the county often feels that way. That you guys come out and say, we're never going to have any of these things in our yard, but it's in your backyard, and then we're just going to shove everything down you. And I'm not speaking because I'm not a resident there, but from what I'm hearing, that's how they feel, and so I have sentiment for that.
I totally understand, but it's not. It's across the board. Nobody wants that. Nobody. And so the answer, in my opinion, is reducing our waste. I mean, to me, it's a simple thing. You reduce your waste, you reuse it, you recycle it as much as you can so that as little as possible gets put into the landfill.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I think I want to add, a lot of things that we have to also be mindful of is the construction waste, because we do have lots of projects that are coming through the island at this time. So some waste cannot just be reduced in that aspect, but it is a bigger problem than just one measure. But I wanted to just ask you that question, because I think it would be it's to show respect to the people from the community so that they understand where your opposition is coming from. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members?
Chair.
Councilmember Tupola, followed by Cordero.
Thank you. I have a real quick question for Director Kawano.
For the record, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services.
Aloha, Director. I did read your communication and you answered some of the questions that were posed in the hearing. And, I thank Chair Waters for introducing this on behalf of one of my community members. I do have concerns because we haven't run this through the neighborhood board, and there's a lot of people in Waianae that won't get this benefit. So help me with this buffer zone. Currently, right now, it's suggesting 1 mile. I think in your memo, you gave an analysis of what 1 mile looks like, what a half mile looks like. But if it was a 1 mile around that gave the tax benefit, the way that I did the map, it wouldn't hit all of Nanakuli Valley because PVT is situated in Lualualei. And so it would hit some portions of Helelua area, the area in front by KFC, and then it would hit some of Princess Kahanu. But when you did your calculations, since you came up with a numerical number of homes, did it hit all of Nanakuli Valley, the 1 mile?
Councilmember Tupola, your analysis is correct. So we went from the outer boundaries of those operations, out a mile. So because we're using a set measurement, not all of the area may be included. The issue we're trying to think through is, this is the underlying issue of the health of impact and all of that. We take that seriously, but it's a big issue, and it's bigger than real property taxes. So our thought process is cause and effect. Also, besides just the radius, what's the cause and effect between a real property tax system that funds city operations and this problem that we're talking about? Because it's a huge problem. It's bigger than real property taxes. So that's one thing. And if we pass ordinance as is, the way it's currently drafted, CD1, what does that mean going forward? In terms of other situations where you have sewer treatment plants and other facilities like that. Will it start the domino effect of a continuation of the erosion of the tax base? That's our concern, and it just keeps snowballing because then you can have bond credit impact, and it just goes on and on and on. So
In your reading of the bill, did it, in your perspective, also include Waimanalo Gulch or just PVT? I read the preamble to mention it, but I read the substance to not mention it.
Our written response included both.
Both, right?
Yeah.
And for clarity, because of Act 73, which essentially is going to downsize PVT and hopefully, correct things, I do think that my concern was also that how do I find parity in the community though? Because if there's a 1 mile line that goes around it, and say for example PVT does close, and then those people that were still have long-term effects, how do we measure that? But then also it'll start to only benefit Ko'olina and Honokaihale because it'll just be Waimanalo Gulch. And so I asked all the neighborhood boards, because all of them asked me this past month, what is this bill? Who introduced it? And what are you guys trying to do? Because one, they're concerned that we don't want any landfills in our community at all, right? So are we being compensated so it can just stay in there longer? Two is, how do I tell one person that's inside the 1 mile, you count, and the person outside the 1 mile, you don't count? It's not going to include all of Nanakuli Valley. And the people who talk about it the most at every single neighborhood board, I kid you not, we don't skip a month without talking about the landfill, is the Nanakuli Neighborhood Board. Every month. In fact, they have the E&V director come every month and update us. Cynthia Resentis, who served decades of her life on the neighborhood board, served on the landfill advisory committee. And she herself hasn't even weighed in on this because no one really knew that this was coming. And so I guess my concern, and I appreciate you breaking it down, is I would have to go back and figure out how is this fair? because really it's the whole west side that's affected. So it wasn't just like 1 mile just carried it, but those people are affected heavily because of the proximity. But I think in general, you know, years ago when Mufi Hanneman was the mayor, they came up with a community benefits package. So then it was everybody gets free summer fun. It was kind of a way to placate the community, right? Okay, you guys can have a couple free things because you have the landfill in your community. So I think those are my concerns, and I appreciate your responses as we consider the fiscal impact, but then also really like what is the length after a landfill that there still affects? Because technically, if that's the case, we had a landfill even deeper in Waianae that they closed down, right near where the convenience center is. And that's why our convenience center is so small, is because the whole area around it used to be a landfill. And so nobody can build on there, and there's still, you know, emissions coming out from that. So I am heavily opposed to any landfills on the west side. Definitely want no more extensions of time because we need to move forward. And just for everyone's clarity, you know, there was a 1,000-page report that broke down exactly where we can and can't have it. The administration is looking at Waipio Peninsula as a possibility, but it's federal land, so we're not sure where that's going. But we don't want to see it continue in our community, but I also want it to be fair, as it's affected many people, even without the 1 mile buffer. So I'm still going to wait until I hear from the neighborhood boards what everyone's thoughts are, as everyone's going to be taking it up this coming month, and then I'll come with kind of more of a complete thought. But thank you, Director, and I'll probably send more questions to you. And Chair, I have more comments, and I'll conclude at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. As the introducer of the bill, this was meant to be mitigate the negative effects of the landfill PVT, not Waimanalo Gulch, and I intend to do a CD2 in committee to further clarify that. I take your comments to heart, and perhaps we can increase the mile radius to include the entire valley, but you're also welcome to introduce CD2 yourself. Members, having said that, again, this is second reading. Do we have any further discussion? Councilmember Wire.
I just wanted to say I fully support the measure and appreciate Chair's leadership. Mahalo.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, any objections or reservations?
Chair, I'll be voting with reservations. And again, I'll come back with information from our neighborhood boards. We're going to take it up next week, the week after, and the week after that. So I just want to get a more thorough picture from the community, and I'll share that in the committee. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other reservations, members? Seeing none, CR 196 has been adopted, and Bill 39 CD1 has passed second reading. Thank you, members. Moving to the top of page 10, I wanted to take the two bills on page 10 and then, out of order, Resolution 23-182, which would rename the Waikele Community Park for Darrell T. Young. Is that okay, members? Okay. So back to page 10, Councilmember Cordero.
I move that Committee Report 197 be adopted and Bill 40 pass second reading, and that relates to the Transit Construction Mitigation Fund to establish additional requirements for the Transit Construction Mitigation Fund.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered testifiers?
Mr. Chair, yes, we do.
Please proceed.
The video conference testifier is not logged on, but we do have in-person testifier registered, Ms. Iwasa.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Iwasa. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Council members, Natalie Wassa for the record. This one is going to be short. I oppose this. What this bill does is that it amends the fund to require the administration to develop rules. I looked at the last audit of the city's financial status, and as it appears to me, there's no money in the fund. I don't know, it's perhaps there were some small funds that were combined, but there's not enough in it to make any kind of significant difference. And I'm sure you remember that you folks had passed a resolution 22-281, which asked the city to report on the status of the fund. And as of at least mid-June, I think even as of today, no such report has been received. So I think the discussion on this is premature, and I would ask that you follow up. If they haven't provided that report, then they need to do that. But as I understand it, part of the problem with this is that some of these businesses that have been impacted are actually tenants. They are not the owners of the properties. And so trying to get grants into the appropriate hands has been challenging. So just ask that you take a look at those issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify on Bill 40? Please proceed.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying in support of the HART Construction Mitigation Fund. And so HART has and continues to be diligent in searching for ways to address the funding, and it continues to look for ways to reduce its internal costs, including ways to improve efficiencies of internal processes, and risk reduction actions have been implemented, which will reduce future costs of procurement. A good example of risk mitigation is the work by HART to get the utility designs completed and approved before the 2 utility relocation contracts, and this work will save construction costs and also shorten the work schedule, adding to the construction savings. In the past, HART has gotten contracts without approved final designs, which is a considerable risk to the contractors proposing on the construction work. So, anything we can do to support HART is a good thing because it supports our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, anybody else wishing to testify?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Cordero, followed
Thank you.
by Dos Santos
Discussion or
Brown.
questions? Oh, okay.
You can ask questions if you like.
Thank you. First off, of course, thank you, members, for allowing us to have a public hearing on this, because it would be great to have this discussion outside of our committee as well. But a lot of the things that have been brought up about how we can make things quantifiable for not just those being affected that would either benefit or be impacted by the fund, but also how the city would be able to implement it is something that we should look at and talk about. And that's where a lot of the rules and I guess implementation process would need to come from. So I do have that question for, I guess, Director Kawano, because I know we talked about it a bunch in the past years, but also in committee relating to, first off, how can we quantify, like, what exactly has been, how the businesses have been impacted by the construction that started at the beginning of this year or tail end of last year, how we can then utilize that quantifiable amount or structure and then allow for us to determine a certain amount that would be viable to put into a fund. That was a lot.
That's a hard question to answer. It's going to take a lot of work. As I mentioned during Committee on Budget, we will probably have to get financial statements and we're going to have a discussion whether or not the statement should be reviewed or audited by a CPA so we can rely on the numbers. But we're going to have to look at multiple years before construction, rolling into during the construction period. We would have to, analyze any changes to the business. So it'll involve probably interviewing the owner/operator of the businesses to understand how the business or commercial operation has changed over the years. And then we're going to have to isolate, okay, what harm has rail construction caused? And we're going to have to do that for every business that applies. So it's going to be a lot of work. The other part too is we've only been looking at businesses adjacent to Dillingham. So if we start a program like this, is that fair? Is that equitable? You know, where is it going to end? How far out do we go? What's the radius from Dillingham Boulevard that should be looked at? The other issue is, what about the past? What about Pro City? What about Waipahu? And then going forward, what about downtown? What about whatever we impact as we go to city center? So we're going to have to think it through. And my recommendation might be good to discuss more in PIG and in public hearing, have more discussion, because there's a lot to answer before we implement ordinance to make this happen. And then you're right, Budget Chair, we got to figure out how does it get funded.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Say, followed by Councilmember Dos Santos Town.
Yes, Director Kawano, would it be possible that this particular program fall under our Grants and Aid Commission? That we just create a sub-account from the Transit Authority funding that they have, and let the commission determine the qualifications of these particular businesses?
It's possible, but we got to check. So the funding is from the transit account, you're saying? We got to make sure that it's legally, allowable to use the funds for the purpose, of mitigation.
Okay.
So that's going to have to be reviewed.
Councilmember Dos Santos Town.
Thank you, Chair. This isn't for the director, so this is just a statement about this bill. I want to thank our budget chair for working with me to introduce this. We share the Dillingham corridor. We know that there's going to be substantial impacts from the rail construction in that corridor. That's already happening, and it's going to, get even more impacted over the next few years as we head through Dillingham into downtown and into Kaka'ako. I want to appreciate Ms. Hawasa's comments because I think the background she provided was really important. There have been several bills over the past 8 years, from Bill 42 in 2015, Bill 9 in 2018, and 2 other resolutions along the way dealing with the Rail Transit Construction Mitigation Fund. Monies were put into this fund and were never spent. And now, as Ms. Wasa points out correctly, there's no money in this fund. But I disagree with the conclusion that she made that it's premature to pass this bill, because I think that this bill is part and parcel of discussing how to deal with the construction impacts, and to have rules in place for when we put money in, and I hope that's not an if we put money in, but when we put money in, to help deal with these businesses, to help make sure that they can stay operational during this construction. It's important that we have these rules. And so I want to thank BFS, and I look forward to working with BFS to come up with some rules and policies that are going to make sense, that are going to be sustainable, that aren't going to be a major drain on our city. But we do need to make sure that these businesses do thrive and succeed and get through this rail period. Other cities have done this. Seattle, Salt Lake, Phoenix, Portland, they've all done loans. Los Angeles, Seattle have done grants. There are also tax relief programs in many of these other cities. And so there's a blueprint here, but we need to make sure that we have the rules, and Bill 40 is a way to start that.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Saying none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talbot? Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 8 ayes, 1 member is absent.
Thank you. CR 197 has been adopted, and Bill 40 has passed second reading. Councilmember Cordero.
I move that Committee Report 198 be adopted and Bill 42 CD1 as amended pass second reading. And this bill relates to real property taxation, which provides property tax relief to certain homeowners.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you for the explanation. Mr. Clerk, I believe we have 1 registered testifier, Natalie Iwaso. Please proceed. Actually, two. Chun James.
Thank you, Chair. Council members, Natalie Wassa for the record. I oppose this bill. First of all, it handicaps future administrations and councils from being more flexible when the need arises, such as when OPEB increases or salaries increase. And it's also it would add pressure to other taxpayers because costs are going to continue to increase. And so when you limit it like this, you limit the flexibility in the budget. Other concerns I have are that upon sale of the property, it goes up to the fair market value, which means that that homeowner who purchases that property would face a huge increase in the taxes, which could, potentially bust a sale if they become aware of what that tax would be. The thought behind this bill is to keep city costs in check, but you folks already have that power. Every year you talk about the budget, and almost every year it's the same. You cut the administration's line items and you put in your own preferences. It's very rare that you control the costs. You have that ability. You don't need to have this artificial cap in there. The other idea behind this is that you're going to try to keep local families in Honolulu, but keep in mind that over 40% of our residents are tenants. And so when you put pressure on those other groups, the other people who are not benefiting from this cap, their taxes increase, the taxes get passed on to the tenants. So, this is one of those other bills that, well, I just absolutely oppose it regardless, but it should be discussed in the permitted interaction group with all the other bills that you're looking at so that the public has an opportunity to see exactly what it is that you're envisioning for this real property tax system if you are planning on revamping it, as some people have said. So thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, is Chun James available?
Hello?
Please
Hi,
proceed.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just having the toughest time this morning with the high winds and everything. We get that way. So are we on Bill 42?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I just managed to submit testimony this morning. I appreciate the efforts that the City Council is doing, trying to improve the system. But I do want to say too that this 8% does not address what really happened to the skyrocketing property assessments values in 22 and 23. So if you use 8%, many of the property owners have seen increases from 24 to as much as 54% last year. So in fact, 8% will automatically force property owners into the 23 outrageous assessments. So you are actually freezing their very high assessments. Also, this bill does not address the discrepancy and the systemic irregularities in the property assessment systems. We know that it's not easy to cross the board because Oahu has so many neighborhoods that are not cookie cutters. And so, without similar models and living space and land area, and again, that with the assessments last year and the year before, there have been a lot of outrageous increases. And also the idea or the differences, and I gave you a few examples in my written testimony, is that gentrification is already hitting our local families. And on one street alone that I've used example on, many locals' family dating back generations have been priced out, and affluent newcomers have replaced them. And also like what has been said, not everybody is a property owner, but a lot of our local residents are enjoying long-term housing services by landlords who have rented to them long-term and for very reasonable rates. And so all those need to be taken into consideration. And words like market value, we think it should be called purchase price value. That is more accurate. It's also in my written testimony. And again, I think that is a good start, and it's good that we are discussing this. But you know that there's some states who do not have property taxes for their property owners over 65. And I think we seriously also need to discuss California's Proposition 13, not in its entirety, but we can certainly pick and choose what will be good for us. But the bottom line is, and I think that you all are heading towards that way, is that we want to help local owners, residents who are tenants, so that they can remain in here, Hawaii, and that our island do not become just a island of the most affluent and a community of service people, and the middle class is all erased. So thank you so much for your efforts, and I pledge to continue to provide more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers? Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the City Council. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES in strong support. So taxes are sometimes levied to discourage certain kinds of bad behavior, such as smoking cigarettes. We call them sin taxes. But the most important reason to levy taxes is to raise revenue to pay for public services. The tax is the price of services consumed. Public services include public schools. Hawaii is the only state to not have a property tax to support the education system. Now, this is something HSTA has been a fierce advocate for, because Hawaii is the only state in all of the USA that does not have property tax to fund public schools. So Senate Bill 2922 called for a constitution amendment to authorize the state to create a real property tax to support public education. The amendment was needed because the state constitution only gives the city, the counties, the exclusive power to levy property taxes. The Senate bill was enacted to propose to authorize the state to also get the power to levy property taxes, and it was on the 2018 ballot as a proposed amendment. However, the justices ruled that the ballot language was not clear enough, and the scope of the new tax and the revenue that was to be spent was not specified. So although this could have been a victory for Hawaii schools, and it would have created a new source of potential funding for Hawaii's statewide school system, it did not pass and it was not enacted into law. So I just thought I would bring up this concern because we have a new audience here today. I know some of the people have heard me talk about this previously. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, any further testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
For Mr. Kawano, please.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, for the record.
Thank you so much. So my quick question, especially because it gives you discretion in this bill, and of course, you and I had talked about my proposal, which I'm trying to keep everything revenue neutral so that you guys still have a bottom line, but that it's not fluctuating as much for the residents. This is saying that if it's more than 8%, then we kind of stop the valuation increase. How would you administrate this?
first of all, I don't like it. But the administration is going to be the same. The underlying methodology, mass appraisal system, in place, supported by computer-assisted mass appraisal software, is not going to change. What we would have to do is program the software so that year-over-year increases cannot increase by more than 8%. I don't agree with that. As I mentioned during Committee on Budget, the methodology should be kept pure. If we're gonna maintain a fair market value platform based on mass appraisal, following professional standards, international standards that are out there. This platform has been in place for decades. We should leave it as is and use the tools that we have to provide tax relief on an equitable basis when necessary. Now, if we want to create a different approach to assess parcels, perhaps that's something we should discuss in permitted interaction group. Keep in mind that we got to be real careful with the transition, because we don't want to be in a situation where we don't really achieve the objectives, right? We need clear objectives, and we're going to need a process such that anything agreed upon, if there's a major overhaul, is going to work and put us in a better place. That's going to be difficult to do.
Because as I read it, the part about the 8% says that you could also tack it on to the following year, meaning that if there was an increase, that you could kind of spread it out. So the way that I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it wouldn't increase more than 8% every year, but it could continue to increase every year at 8%, and that you could tack on values at following years?
That is the discretion piece that you brought up. And I don't like it. Personally, down the road, you can have situations where you have a BFS director or administration that's not fair, and does not implement that equitably across the island. So the more clear cut the rules, the better off for everybody. That everybody gets fair treatment. The other parts too is that if you do a renovation of your home, that takes precedence, right? Versus the cap, right? If you do a renovation. So I think we need to have more discussion on how that works, because what if the renovation is super high? I've seen it already in my short time here. I've seen a home valued at close to $1 million with $800,000 renovation. Should that home be taxed 80% more? Maybe. But is it fair if everyone else is only is going to be capped at 8%?
Well, and then you have the scrape and build, right? So you have lots of homes that we have that are run down that you basically have to demo the whole thing, start all over again. And that would be a huge considered renovation. But it was just kind of hard for me to understand all of it. So thank you for the clarity. And I'm still a proponent of us trying to keep the revenue base neutral. I still feel like truth in taxation, which works in 4 other states, is a solid concept. So I am hoping for further discussion. Of course, agree with you, clear objectives, clear outcomes would be the best. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any further discussion? Councilmember Kia Aina.
Director, again, you can't calculate costs, right? The cost of this measure.
Not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, Chair, just similar to what I've shared with Bill 34, I'm concerned about moving any real property tax relief like this without looking at the broader picture. I understand that this was requested by a constituent, and I am hoping that when we have a second permitted interaction group, we might solicit actually based on the various elements of the tax structure, comments from the public, so that when we start having a dialogue, everybody will be able to share mana'o, because I don't think we'd want to be introducing all of the measures that people are requesting, because we acknowledge the complexity of what is going on, the dire need for tax relief, but making sure that we balance it against continuing to provide government services by having a balanced budget. So I just wanted to say that. So while I support this measure moving forward, I still continue to express concerns over any RPT bills.
Thank you. Reservations?
No reservations on this bill because the costs were not calculated. The only reason I expressed reservations with Bill 34 was because $70 million is a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 198 has been adopted and Bill 42 CD1 has passed second reading. Members, with your indulgence, can we take up Resolution 23-182, which is on page 25, Vice Chair Kia Aina.
I move that Resolution 23-182 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Vice Chair Kia Aina for the explanation.
This resolution renames the Waikele Community Park for Darrell T. Young.
Thank you. Is there a motion to amend? Councilmember Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. Yeah, I move that Resolution 23-182 be amended to the hand carried FD1. The proposed FD1 makes the following amendments: amending the first resolve clause by changing the name of the renamed park to Darrell T. Young Waikele Community Park and making miscellaneous technical and non-substantive amendments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you so much for the explanation. Is there anybody who wishes to testify on the measure?
I do believe.
Director Kraki, aloha. Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
Director Anton Krahe, Department of Community Services. Our department has been greatly moved during the last month over Darrell's passing, and we really appreciate and support the council in this action. I think it's appropriate, and I also talked to Director Laura Thielen, and we keep the name of the community in the park prefaced by Darrell's name, and so thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to say a few words? No? Members, we're in discussion.
Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Chair, thank you so much. And I was unaware that this was on the agenda, but I'm clearly moved and delighted to be supporting this measure. Darrell meant a lot to many people. At the services on Saturday, it was reflected by the hundreds of people who was at the Kamehameha Chapel. He is dear to me for a number of reasons. First and foremost, of course, he is my classmate. We are proud 1981 graduates of the Kamehameha schools. And my chief of staff, Jocelyn Doan, was his predecessor, the administrator for the community-based development division. And last night, I got a call from Councilwoman Sue Leloy from Hilo, who found out from our other classmate, her husband, Ian Leloy, about his passing. And she was devastated last night. And we talked for over an hour of how Darrell touched the lives of so many people in all of the various departments,
that he worked for the state and city, as well as the communities that he touched. And so I just wanted to express my deepest sympathy to the young Ohana, and to just let you know, to Jamie and to his sons, that you need to know that your husband and your father and your son, for his parents, that he's left a lasting legacy, and it's evident by the fact that we are moving expeditiously in the renaming of the park for him right now. And so that's all. I just wanted to say how much he was loved. And in the community of Waimanalo, I've already talked to the community. We were working on a HONU program, which Honolulu Police Department works in concert with the city to help our homeless community. And we were also in the throes of working on a transitional housing program on 15 acres of land in Waimanalo. So his legacy is going to be throughout Hawaii. And I just wanted to let you know how impactful he was to me personally and for the people of Honolulu. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. First, just wanted to say mahalo to Jamie, Zach, Carson, I know Marge and Kevin, Daryl's family, his wife, his sons, for sharing him with all of us. Daryl was everywhere, right? He was our community association president. He was our precinct president. Of course, my boss when he was administrator at community services, and I know so many people in this building, in this state, knew him at DOT, at DHHL, so many places. And so I'm sure they have, so many stories and over 50 pieces of testimony and support. I don't need to replicate or go over, his whole resume to just share how important his work was. So I figured I would share, a story from DCS. As some of you know, a few years ago, the council passed single-use plastic phase out. And maybe Jamie heard about it at home, but I know Daryl was a very strong proponent of a, gravy exemption to that. And of course, other exemptions. And I remember one day he came into the hall, and I'm sure everyone at community services remembers. He came in and he held up one of those bamboo spoons, and he exclaimed, "How am I supposed to use a tongue depressor to eat my poke bowl?" All right, like the ones you have at the doctor's office. And that's actually kind of a common conversation, depending on the day, whether it was a straw or a bamboo spoon or a plate lunch that had too much gravy that was seeping through. And, and we'd friendly banter over it. I'd remind him that I was just staff, and so I didn't actually vote on the bill, or I'd remind him about how it's actually good for the environment. But what that taught me was that friendly banter makes for good politics, because our politics isn't who we are, it's what we do. And what binds us together, what defines who we are, is our community and our love for our community and our ability to nudge each other and have those conversations, but then still come together and share that aloha. And that's what Daryl did as a boss, right? He allowed everyone to express themselves and dive into the issues. And I think he truly embodied servant leadership, and that he was never overbearing. I think Governor Abercrombie's testimony said something along the lines of, you always left the conversation feeling like you're the most important conversation he had that day. And so he had that effect on people. And just that prioritizing aloha for community was, shown through the work that he did. Just in my short time with him at DCS, no matter who it was, from council, whether you're in the minority or the majority, no matter your political position, like he was there to answer the call when it was a community need. And, again, just in his time at DCS, thousands of folks on Oahu were housed, received mental health services, youth, at-risk youth received culturally relevant programming, and the kind of stuff that I think folks can aspire to in terms of a legacy over a lifetime was just a day's work in Daryl's life. And I'm sure that's the case at DOT and DHHL and everywhere else he was. And so, again, want to mahalo you, Jamie, and Zach, Carson, the whole family, and mahalo Daryl for all that he shared with our community and our city and our state. And can't think of a better person to have the park named after. And so appreciate everyone's consideration. Mahalo.
Thank you. Councilmember Okimoto?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councilmember Wire, for that really nice homage to Daryl. I guess I have the disadvantage or the misfortune of knowing Daryl the least, but I have the really big blessing to have known him. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to make it to the funeral services. I had another family engagement already planned, but I know that Jamie, who worked very closely with Daryl, and proud Kamehameha School grad as well. So I'll just take a little time just to let you know how, Jamie, how much Daryl meant to even just me in the short time that I've been able to serve in the council, whether it was answering questions that I had here in hearings, taking time to come to my office and meet with me and my staff. He even came to the community once. We had a meeting at a school in the district after hours, and he came, and I remember the time that he took. It went into the evening, and he even spoke with me after about how he was so willing to work with me in my office and how we could solve the homelessness issue that had been kind of that is still plaguing this part of the district. And I think I'll always remember him just being the smiley, happy gentleman, just willing to serve and work. So I know that I don't have the experiences that many of the other council members do, but I'm really grateful that I had this time to know him. And thank you again for all that you did to share him with the rest of us. We will truly miss him. Mahalo. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Tolba?
Thank you, Chair. Ohana, my prayers and my thoughts are with you. In the 3 years that I've been here, your dad, your husband, has been an amazing friend. He was the chief of staff for the district I represent and really helped my staff in understanding the needs of the community. And like Councilmember Wire was saying, he didn't look at the majority or the minority. In my time with him in the 3 years, he just wanted to see if we can get stuff done. And all those conversations was like about, we can. And I think that's, for me, gives me a lot of hope that, we can solve some of the problems that we have when it comes to homeless or fixing the needs of our community. So he gave me not only hope, he also, he encouraged me a lot. He knew that this was new to me, this whole introduction to government. And, the last phone call we had, we just talked, where I was in Waipahu, and I called him. I said, I think I found someplace that we can help our community in Waipahu. He's like, I'll meet you on Tuesday. And when I heard what happened, I was devastated, not because of what maybe could have get done, but the fact that, we're gonna lose somebody with the kind of importance that hear the need and the concern and really wanted to help. So he will be missed, and thank you for allowing him to, be a part of my life in the 3 years, and I hope I can do justice in a district that he wants loved and represented. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Councilmember Tupolo?
Thank you. First off, my condolences to his wife and his kids. Thank you to Councilmember Wire for this resolution. Man, it broke my heart to see your sons talk about their dad because they're so young. And at the memorial service, it was clear that he had such a huge impact. But one of the things that Kahu Cordell said was that the A in Daryl's name stood for action and that the R stood for results. And I'll tell you right now that there is nothing that Daryl couldn't get done. Nothing. I first met Daryl when he worked for DOT Harbors, and that was a tough one. We met at Kalaeloa Harbor, and we had this horrific experience with the prior Harbors guy, and then Daryl walks in, and I was like, who are you? He's like, oh, I just took over. I'm over Harbors. I was like, no way, this guy's way too nice. He's like, we're gonna get this done real fast. And then when I came to the city and he was working here, I was like, yes, this is the guy who gets it done. We had so many homeless initiatives that Daryl was a part of for us on the West Side, for District 1 specifically. He stuck out his neck numerous times. And I gotta say, the class of 81 popped out some winners. Every time I called him, he would say, oh, call my classmate, she worked for Work Hawaii. Oh, call my other classmate, she worked for Halekipa. Oh, my other classmate works over here, she can help you. Anything I needed, Daryl's like, I got a guy. Yeah, here's his number, call him, he can do it. So I just loved his energy. The last time I saw Daryl, we actually wore the same aloha print to work. I'm gonna miss like our unplanned coordinated outfits day, but just even this picture of just him smiling, like he is such a positive guy, so much good energy, and that's hard in this job. This job is daunting. The tasks that we're up against are hard, but he never seemed winded. He never seemed discouraged. And like Augie said, it encouraged all of us. Like, okay, we can work alongside this guy. So just thank you for sharing him with us. He did such a wonderful job. He's such a wonderful man. And our prayers to your family. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Councilmember Cordero?
Sorry, thank you. I wasn't really going to say anything, but after Saturday and finding out about his ties to especially Moanalua and St. Philomena, of course I had to find out some stories about not just his time at school, but his time being a Cub Scout, as well as his time that he dedicated to St. Philomena, and where that really built his faith and his outlook and perspective on the world. And I saw that on Saturday, and it was beautiful. And I think what it shows is that when you have one person who provides such an impact like Daryl, and the foundation that he's built with not just his family and where he's come from, and the communities he's built, but the communities that he, I think, through everyone that he's touched along with us, everyone that he's worked with at all the departments, I hope that we can carry that with all of us. And I know that Daryl was always so quick to not just respond to something that we even actually asked. He wanted to make sure that we had the right information. He wanted to make sure that we, I have to say, he corrected me a lot of times in very positive and in a very positive manner. And I think that is something that we can learn from, because just as everyone has mentioned, we are faced with so much, and how we approach people too shows also how much we care. And I think if we can learn just some of the things that Daryl has taught us throughout the years, is not just the institutional knowledge that he brought, but how we can provide such an impact that everyone has mentioned. So thank you to his family, and thank you to everyone that he's impacted and showed support for this. Thank you to the introducer of this resolution, and I just want to share I support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none. Members, any objections or reservations to the motion to amend? And again, the amendment is renaming the park Darrell T. Young Waikele Community Park. Yeah. Noting no objections or reservations, Resolution 23-182 has been amended to the hand-carried FD1. Any objections or reservations to waiving the Council Rule 19G, the 48-hour notice rule? Noting no objections or reservations, the 48-hour notice has been waived. Members, any last discussion before we vote? Councilmember Wire.
Yeah, no, just quickly, because I know we referenced everyone, but just wanted to acknowledge everyone that's here. I know we have Jamie, Daryl's wife, Zach, one of his sons, Carson, I think couldn't be here, and then Marge, Daryl's mother-in-law, and then Kevin, Daryl's brother, amongst other family, friends, and supporters. So mahalo.
Very nice, thank you. Any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, Resolution 23-182 FD1 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you.
Chair, I'm just wondering with regard to.
Councilmember Kiano?
Wondering with regard to time frame for a lunch.
No,
time
thank you.
break.
I was going to ask, it's 1 o'clock now. Members, we're on page 11 out of 30. Page 11 out of 30. Do you want to take a quick break to get some food? We've been at it since 8:30 this morning. Okay, let's come back. Is a half hour enough?
Sure.
Okay, let's come back at 1:30. We're in brief recess. Did you want to make an announcement, Councilmember Okimoto?
Thank you, Chair. Members of the council and staff, we have lunch in the conference room downstairs for those of you who haven't yet eaten. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We're in recess.